On 411 I premiered 4 top tier strumming FCs that hold their own as being some of the best strumming FCs done. Novae Ruptis 125, Twilight of the Thunder God Bass Chart 165, War 135, and Violation 125. These 4 can stand apart from one another in terms of how different they are, but the one I want to take a dive down is the weakest one out of the 4, Novae Ruptis 125, as I think people see this FC as a minute and a half vibrating strum fest. As there is much more than what is presented, I'll gladly show you how difficult this speedy boy really is. If you haven't already, head over to 3M Butter Danny's channel and make sure to drop a subscription. Once 3 hits 750 and Danny hits 300, I'll finally premiere the fabled Filertage that has been on the back burner for years on Lado Keegan. And while you're at it, make sure you give my Twitter a quick follow, as I'll premiere my best Vault FC once I hit 1000. You won't be disappointed in the outcome of that. Novae Ruptis was a chart for Anti-Hero, a community set list released in early 2018. The chart is notorious for being one of the toughest strummy songs in the whole set list, as there is only a handful of regular speed FCs done on it, and few with 110 plus FCs. Me and Send It. Send It had gone a 110 FC on one of his last runs of playing in the community, while I had gone later to get 115 and then 125. The duration at regular speed is a minute and 48 seconds. At 125 it is a minute and 26, which in return makes it a pretty easy grind with lots of replayability. Or so you think. Most people, me included, tend to look at short songs as an easy grind based off their replayability and likeliness to see progress more, which in turn makes the player feel a lot more comfortable during the grind. A good example of this is Jared's Solo 6 grind. The grind had never torn him apart to the extent of what Extends and Solos 5 did to him. Now, I'm not going to put this accomplishment in the same sense as Solo 6, but this grind is a rare type when it comes to short ones. It is in no way a mentally draining one, but holy shit, it is physically draining. When you have a song that utilizes your max pulse and vibrating speed with tight transitions in between along with fast fretting that is forced into a chokeable outro, you're practically set up to have a shit time with this game. Not to mention sometimes you'll probably have to go through multiple sessions and give up seeing that after a certain while. Performing at your max speed for hours on end will wear you down and leave you drained of energy, which is what this song did to me. I'll be going over the physical details of what I did to achieve this full combo with certain references soon, but just know this accomplishment is a unique one at that. The song starts off pretty basic, slow alt strumming that everyone and their dog can do, along with moderate fretting. In these sets of 3 sequences, I choose the reset strum as it doesn't make a difference in difficulty. You're practically given a break within the first 30 seconds of this song if you went straight back into another run after missing the fast bits, so either way you can go back and forth in runs. These even and odd number sets of chords signal the first bursty section this song has to offer. Now pause. You probably know what I'm about to get into, as it is a really peculiar sight to look at. These 2 green notes that are 16ths are followed by 30-second green notes on 140 BPM, but since we're playing on 125, the BPM is shifted to 175. What does this mean? I play on a -30 to -45 video offset, which means the hit window shifts further up on the fretboard, which benefits me playing early. This gives me an advantage on knowing how much of a threshold I have in terms of being able to pull through things that are high notes per second strumming and checking my status on maintaining high note streaks. The case of being able to pull through high notes per second strumming comes into play here. I'm able to hit these 2 greens that are 16ths at the notes per second cap of the song, which is really fast. I'll get into that later. This gives me a head start on being able to pull through this really high notes per second burst that I'm pulse strumming through. These sequences happen every time in the FC. The notes per second cap on this song is on the high end of 23 notes per second, which can safely round up to 24, which is a little near, if not my max, when it comes to pulse strumming, so this chart was already reaching a little bit in feasibility. You might ask, what is pulse strumming, and how is it any different from vibrating? Oh boy, here we go. Pulse strumming is an upcoming term in today's age, as it's now just a go-to term for regular fast strumming but with no use of flexing any muscles in order to perform a vibrate strum. You're essentially alt strumming up and down as fast as you can, with some help of various motions like widening your arm back and forth like me and Randy do. Pulse strumming is considerably different from vibrate strumming, and in my opinion should not be placed within the same realm of each other in terms of strumming accomplishments. I will list a difference soon in this video, but the topic on its own is another rabbit hole to go down another day. In the case for Novae Ruptis 125, I probably could have vibrated the whole thing, but since
I'm a genetic freak and I'm not normal,
I made it all the more easier to just pulse instead, since I can make an exception to that by being the fastest pulse strummer in the world in my opinion. Back to the song though. You now see that this accomplishment already has a lot going for it in terms of physical limits, but that thesis might change with time. After the bursty riff, you go back to the verses that act the same like the ones we played in the intro, except with the star paraphrase that you can whammy with the one sustain that pops up. Approaching now is considered one of the two hardest parts of the song. Watch and pay attention to my strumming hand. What you saw there was one of the hardest transitions hit for strumming, ever. But we gotta slow it down. If you looked at my strumming hand, you realize I buckled my index and laid the side of my thumb onto my strum bar. This was once my strumming method for anything fast as I was in the middle of my strumming infancy. The method is now used by a number of players that are trying to innovate in the strumming department. All I use it now is just for stuff like this where it's anything above my pulse max. I did that little change in positioning midway so I can brace myself easier for the sets of 4 that were coming up. The speed I vibrated at definitely helped with executing the sets of 4, since if there's changes in fretting with 4 strumming, you'd have to strum a lot faster than the raw notes per second. The people that generally vibrate have a tough time with executing the final strum note of a sequence. This applies here as hitting this red, blue, orange chord is a challenge of its own, as I'm still trying to maintain myself vibrating and executing up to there. But the real challenge lies here. The main source of difficulty comes from this very transition of going from vibrating, then back to pulsing at your top speed. One little flinch, one little finger slip, which was common, and one stutter can spell the run at this point, and you'd have to go back and wait another minute to get back to where you were. It was really excruciating. Anytime I got past that point, it was instant nerves. I don't even hold that much of a nervous trait anymore with this game, but it got to me. And nerves don't even help at all when you have a chokeable outro that you have to vibrate the ever-living shit out of. Here I brace my hand again. The sequence only goes on longer than the one before, which doesn't help at all. If you look at players that side on vibrating, their stamina pool is much lower than what you'd expect from someone who's pulse strumming 20 notes per second for a whole minute. So adding an extra 2 to 3 seconds on this outro is an instant kick to the dick. This isn't without referring to what I said before with vibrate strumming and its struggle to execute hitting the last note of a sequence, especially if you see some of the notes appear near the strike line, which means it's getting close to the latest bit of my hit window since I'm on -45 offset. I was practically on the brink of collapsing the run due to the late hit window and me not being able to vibrate any longer, since it isn't my most developed skill set comparatively, and my stamina for that is pretty dog water. But I pulled through. Let me know what y'all think of videos like this that are more analytical and commentary based, as it's something that I've been wanting to pursue with this channel for a while. I have a ton of ideas I want to execute on, so if you have any ideas yourself for me, please let me know. See y'all the next vid.